This is the America Red Devils, and we are here with the legendary Manchester United fan at Good Vibes, John. John, it's great to have you on. So after that Europa League final and the start to this summer transfer window, we at the America Red Devils could certainly use some good vibes. How are you doing? How's your summer going?
First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. I think legend is a little too much if I'm being completely honest. You gotta be, but I just want to say thank you for having me. Lots of people have been asking me for good vibes, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you. It's been not so easy to be spreading good vibes. Let's face the reality. I mean, finishing the way we finished last season, and of course the almost silence of this transfer window has made it quite hard. Simply because Manchester United fans are desperate. Manchester United fans are looking for something. They're looking for something to cheer about. They're looking for something to be excited about, and um, it's taking some time for the club to bring that to us. Obviously, Mateus Cunha has joined us, but if we finished, what do we finish? I can't even remember, 17th or whatever the finish it was last season. For us to be able to recover from that, we're gonna need more reinforcements than just the Mateus Cunha. So I think United fans are quite desperate and dare I say frustrated to a certain degree. The only I don't necessarily want to say good vibes, but the only thing that I can say is that I would like to think that Manchester United are working hard behind the scenes, simply because I use this analogy of cleaning the poop. It's really easy to poop on your carpet, but it's so hard to clean and scrub that stain off. It's so easy to ruin your credit score, but it's so hard to build that credit back. And I think Manchester United over the past decade or so, with respect to our transfer strategy, it's not been so great. And I think with this new leadership under the under the organization of Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox, I think they are trying to repair that, which is why I'd like to think it's taking so long, because we don't want to bend over. I'm not even sure if I want to say bend over, but
Say
we're
it.
not. We don't want to be in a position where we're constantly saying, "Oh, it's only extra 5 mil or extra 10 mil." We'll give them that. We'll give them that, because by then, or rather, that's been our sort of energy. It's like, hey, we have money in our wallet. Let's give them the extra 5. Let's give them the extra 10. And here we are, having overspent, having spent recklessly, having spent, not so wisely. And this is the position that we find ourselves in. And I think they're trying to repair that, which is why it's taking a little bit longer. I'm more so in the mindset that I'm okay with that. But at the same time, I can completely understand the frustration of the fans.
Well, there's certainly a lot of shit on that Manchester United carpet. You can curse away. This is the American Red Devils. We allow anything. And it was such a season. You never remember the play. We finished in 15th, even though it doesn't feel like that at times. But, now that you have had time to digest, how are you feeling about last season? Like, what in your mind went wrong? And there's probably a long list of things that went wrong given the season that we just finished.
Um, I'm going to be honest with you. As I tried to erase that out of my memories, but if I can recollect those memories and think about last season, then one of the things that I think that maybe should have been avoided or could have been avoided was perhaps bringing in Ruben Amarham a bit earlier. So from what we could tell, the idea of having Ruben Amarham as the next manager was clearly in the works by the Manchester United hierarchy. But obviously, following the highs of that final with Eric Ten Hag, lots of people were sort of torn and split in terms of where they wanted to be. And I myself included was riding on that high and said, hey, let's give Eric Ten Hag another chance. But if we were clearly sure that this was not the man to go forward, especially when those reports about the dressing room having completely been lost and sort of, beyond salvageable conditions, then I think you would have had to make that executive decision and move on. I use the comparison of Ange Postecoglou at Spurs, and I'm not saying that they are the reference model, but when we're looking at the finish that they placed, they only finished 2 positions higher, wherever it was, and for them to have made that executive decision, I think Manchester United probably should have been in that position. But again, hindsight is 2020. I don't really blame them all that too much for that error, because again, we were all in that high, and perhaps they thought, hey, maybe we can take this opportunity to fix them, to amend those sort of broken relationships or whatnot. So they took that chance, and unfortunately, it kind of sucked in the highest in the biggest of ways, because it was a rolling snowball, really, off the top of the mountain. One problem became another, and another problem became another, and that minor problem became a major problem, and the major problem became an even more major problem. And I think that's kind of what was dumped onto Ruben Amarham in the middle of November. I mean, the vibes were absolutely immaculate when he pulled up at Old Trafford with that tracksuit, and he looked like an absolute stud, and he looked sharp, and I was like, let's go. But everybody knew that it was going to be much more difficult, and he even said it himself. And he knew that, you know, the storm was coming, and he used that reference. And man, that storm hit hard. I think the biggest problem, to answer your question, to sort of wrap it all up, is that it was really mostly the pressures really getting to everybody. I think that's really what kind of is at the forefront, or at the main crux of it all, is that the pressure just got to every single person, and it was so tough to come back from all of that.
No, absolutely. And speaking of vibe, I mean, Ruben Amarham certainly had it in abundance when he entered Old Trafford in November. What is your impression of the man? Tell us, do you have faith in his system, given everything we've seen, I guess, over the last 8 months?
I actually am not. Just full disclosure. I've spoken about this many times on my platforms, and whenever I've been asked about this, I am not the biggest fan of three at the back. But I'm more than welcome to try things. I'm not somebody that's completely like, oh no, I'm like hell bent on one specific anything. I'm very flexible in that regard. But when it comes to systems, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of three at the back. But I've seen what he's done with Sporting, and I really feel like there could be an opportunity for him to build on that. Doesn't exactly translate like for like. Of course, he has to make some tweaks and adjustments, but um, with respect to his setup, I think that could be things that he can improve on, like everybody else in the world. Yeah, of course. I think especially with respect to the new personnel he's going to bring in, there's definitely going to be opportunities for him to grow in that sense. But in terms of my thoughts on Ruben Amorim, I think he is the right man, and I say this because he's, I think one of them. If I had to pick one word to describe him, I'd say refreshing. You know, I think United fans were so tired of it all, and I think they were looking for transparency. I think United fans were looking for honesty. You know, we're tired of the media trained answers. We're tired of all the, these things that, we kind of know it's something that we've been, thrown around really. And Ruben Amorim showed up, and he's just being completely blunt and completely honest. I actually think personally now, I think he's gotten a little too much. I think there's still an element where he needs to tone it down just a little bit, because at the end of the day, you do represent one of the biggest football clubs in the world. You can be honest, but you still gotta kind of, tone it just a little bit, color it a little bit, package just a bit. And I think fans are also realizing that as well. They're like, whoa, I knew he was gonna be honest, but damn, this is a little too much, And I think that was what last season was about. But in all, I think Ruben Amorim's honesty and his blunt assessment of a lot of things, that he earns my respect 100%.
He's certainly a straight shooter. I think that honesty might have hurt certain players and rubbed them the wrong way. But moving on, what's your impression of how the transfer window is going thus far?
I probably rambled on a little too much in the beginning, but just to go back to the point about the transfer and the strategy, I think that needs to be repaired because, like I said before, it's just taken this long under the leadership of Ed Woodward, and maybe even if you want to include the whole John Murtaugh, Richard Arnold, the leadership, there are certain things that we could have got. There's certain things we did get right, but there's a lot of things that maybe we did get wrong, and the transfer strategy clearly needed to change. I can't even tell you how many people in my comment section are constantly DMing, writing in the comments, or even DMing me saying, "John, why is it taking so long?" Blah, blah. And I understand. Like I said before, I completely understand the frustration. I myself am frustrated to a degree, but I'm a lot more patient in that respect, because I guess this is where my good vibes come in, because I know how hard it is to fix things. I used the reference before, the repairing the credit score, cleaning the stain off the poop off the carpet. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so much easier to, you know, it's easier to ruin things than to repair them. It's easier to spend money than to save money. It's easier to poop on the carpet than to clean the poop. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that now we're working hard to clean that, and we're in the midst of cleaning it while we're having to recover from our worst finish in the Premier League. So it's a lot, and I don't want to add on to that pressure. So many people have DM'd me. They're like, "Hey, mate, you're delusional." But yeah, look, I get it. If you feel like I'm delusional, that's completely fine. But I just feel like there's just so much that they need to work on, which is why it's taking longer. And if it takes longer, then so be it. I'm okay with it. I feel, and maybe I also feel that way because I still believe that the likes of somebody like Brian Mbeumo will definitely join. Maybe that's why I still feel rather optimistic. Maybe it might have been a completely different circumstance if I completely felt like Brian Mbeumo was not going to happen and I was sitting here like, oh, shoot. Then I'd be like, hurry up, hurry up. But maybe it's that confidence that I think that the deal will get done, which is why I'm still so patient with respect to this situation.
Yeah, one thing we say on the pod is you can't evaluate a transfer window halfway through, right? They still have almost at the halfway point, I think, within a day. And there's a whole second half of the window to get things together. So, if you were the director of football, do we have a director of football? Hard to say. What are the kind of the key positions that you think Amorim needs to fill in advance? Not of the kickoff, I know, obviously on the 17th or 18th of August against Arsenal, but like end of the transfer window, who do you think is key to prioritize in what areas for this manager to get the most out of the system and the squad he already has?
I like to think that we need reinforcements on all fronts, really, and in all parts of the pitch. Let's be real. But if we're talking about the squad in terms of the players that are going, so we're getting rid of Anthony, Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford. If all three of those players are leaving off the bat, we're losing three wide players, three potential attacking tens or whatever it may be. So right there, we already need a new attacker. Obviously, Mateus Cunha will be adding to that, but we need more than that. We need that Brian Mbumo signing ASAP, and I think if we just sit here and hypothetically, theoretically say that Mbumo is coming, then yeah, sure. Then three outgoing attackers and two incoming. Maybe we might need one more. There's conversations about Vlahovic. Not a bad option in that sense. Maybe if we're getting him on a free, then okay, cool. It's a shrewd, could be a shrewd signing. But my concern also is with respect to that midfield situation. I love Bruno Fernandes with all my heart. I think Bruno Fernandes is quite honestly a legend of the club, and he's saved us so many times. But he's not getting any younger, and the responsibilities will have to be shared with each and every passing day. That's just a fact. That's what happens to bodies, and we don't know if he's going to play an attacking 10. We don't know if he's going to sit next to the 6 as an 8. We have no idea. But whether it be Bruno, whether it be Casemiro sitting next to Ugarte, or whether it be Kobbie Mainoo, we still need another midfielder. And I personally think we need another 6. Ugarte didn't play in that final at all. And I love Manu Ugarte. I think he is still a young player, and I think he's got a lot of things that he still needs to work out. But he's 22. He's still a young player, and you need time to fix things. But if he can't rely on Casemiro for 38, 40, 50, even 50 games a season, especially when the games are piling on, yeah, maybe no Euro might help us, but still, we need reinforcements in that midfield area for sure. I can't. I'm getting flashbacks of watching that final against Spurs. Like, just the idea that we were getting overrun by a Spurs midfield, it shocked me, and I don't want to see that ever again. I mean, I'm not trying. I don't want to drag this on too long, but I talked about it not too long ago, so I'll just use this as a reference point. In the past, what we seen last season was we played kind of like this with two midfielders and our 2 10s. But what I would prefer is we play with 2 attacking, whether it be 9s or wide areas or whatnot, and have a more of a deeper lying, an attacking mid, or even, dare I say, a 10 to help be a little bit more aware and kind of present in that midfield area, so that we don't have to leave our 2 midfielders isolated, especially on a counterattack, so that this player can be available. Somebody like a Mason Mount who's got that robustness. Bruno can play this role for sure. Then who's going to play here? It's going to be Cassie Ugarte. It's going to be Kobbie Ugarte. Whoever Ruben Amarham trusts. I just prefer this player to be here. I don't want to drag on too much, but I think the midfield role is going to be crucial, because you need that robustness in midfield. You need those legs. You need that engine for anything to work, in my view. So, yeah, for sure, I think midfield is priority.
So that's number one. You get Mbumo in. Obviously, some of those attackers, they're challenging deals to get done. But once you get Mbumo in and some of the, the outcasts out, ahead of a number 9, ahead of a new goalkeeper, good vibes, John. He needs a 6. Someone, hopefully, that we thought Ugarte would be last season. I like the lad, like the personality. I've always rated a youngster or any player from Uruguay. So that's where your head's going. That's where your heart's going.
It's not to say that I'm going to completely write off Ugarte. Absolutely not. But I just think you need an extra addition. We have no idea when Casemiro's going. We have no idea. He had a really tough start to the season, maybe tough last 2 seasons, really, before he had that revitalization, renaissance there, I say, towards the end, which is great, for sure. But how do we know it's going to happen again? We don't know, and we can't rely on a could it happen type of thing. We just need extra hands on deck. Yeah, Sekou Kone can get involved, and yeah, sure, Mason Mount now is going to get involved and whatnot, but at least with respect to a 6, we just need extra hands on deck, in my view. It's not to say that it's not to say that I think Ugarte should be replaced. Absolutely not. I just think we need competition. I think we need extra numbers and extra hands. And if Ruben Amarham thinks Ugarte wasn't ready for that final, then he needs to bring in an experienced 6. Not another young 6 that's gonna be in the same circumstance or same position as Ugarte, but maybe a veteran 6 that can come in, maybe play 20 games or 15 or whatever it may be, and help Ugarte learn or help Ugarte get settled. That would be awesome.
there's not an area of the squad where it would not make sense to invest in, given given all the needs around. So that makes total sense. Is there a player in mind? Not to put you on the spot, if you could get any six that's reasonable, it's not Rodri. Who would you like Manchester United to go for this
Oh,
summer?
if there's a player that I really wanted, I know it's completely unrealistic, but I've been going around just trying to push this whole like,
That's
can
what
we
we're here
get a
for.
can we get like a Guimaraes or a Tonali? I really love that Newcastle midfield. Everybody's been asking me about it. No real big names like come to mind. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been completely zoned out of this transfer window. I was just so sick of like United being used as this like clickbait agenda, and I didn't want to contribute to that. My content this year, obviously the FIFA Club World Cup and all these other things have kept me quite busy, but I just didn't want to contribute to the transfer window madness. I didn't want to tell people, hey, this is who we're linked with, this is who we're going to bring, and then all of a sudden it doesn't go. And I'm not really too certain which DM I would want to bring, but I've been talking about how much I love Newcastle's defensive the midfield trio, really. Tonali, Guimaraes, and can't remember the last name off the top of my head. I'm shooting blanks here. I always do this.
It's okay. I put you on the spot, but all those players would add a lot of steel to this United side.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The same kind of edge that I think Mateus Cunha offers. Bruno Guimaraes also offers that, and I think United are missing a little bit of that. So, thinking about next season, John, what are your expectations for the upcoming season, and where do you think United will finish in the table?
Great question. Oh, it's Joe Linton, by the way. Sorry. There we go. Just it came back. Okay.
Also a good player.
Sorry, it came back. Where can we finish? I would love it if we finished in the top six. And I think we can. I just think last season was a blip. I really feel like last season was just too much at once, and it just smacked us in the face, and we were kind of got hit like a deer in the headlights almost thing. And I really feel like we still have the squad strength to finish there. It's just about, can we add on to that depth? Can we recover from the pain of last season? If we finish sixth, I will take it. I will be so happy.
I would take six all day. All day. Is that where you're pegging? Sixth place? I would love to see it. Back to the Europa League, back to that misery. Maybe another loss within 5 years. I wouldn't want to see that. So, switching topics slightly, how would you grade Inos' performance from A to F since they've come on board? What do you think they need to turn this around? Do you think Sir Jim has been a little quick to the trigger? Ashworth sacking, that comes to mind. That's something me and my co-host harp on quite a bit in terms of that felt a little reactionary, felt a little like it was a rash decision. But I want to know your thoughts on Ineos.
I would say a 3 out of 5. I would say a 3 out of 5. I think, again, maybe I just try to draw on it from my own personal experience coming into a new management. So I use this example quite a lot. I used to be a busboy. I used to wait tables, and I used to clean tables and do dishes at a restaurant. The restaurant was so poorly run. It was so bad and it was so difficult. Not to compare Manchester United, one of the greatest football clubs in the world, to my small restaurant, but I'm just personally drawing off from a personal experience. That restaurant was so poorly organized and so poorly run. And I told myself, oh, if I ever ran this thing, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it this way, And eventually I climbed through the ranks. I became a server. I became the head server. I became the captain. I eventually managed the store myself. And it took a long time for me to get things right. So the chefs weren't happy with the changes that I made. We were trying to get a little bit more organized. We were trying to be a little bit more structured, and there was so many things that people weren't in agreement with. And I completely understand, but I worked hard so that I showed them the trust, and I showed them that, hey, if you believe in me, you ride with me, we're going to have a great time. And eventually we got it right. And the thing that I'm most proud of was my staff was very happy towards the end when things started really settling down. And I like to think that that's what they're doing. I've never ran a football club, so I have no idea. A lot of the things that maybe they have done, maybe I don't agree with. Some of the cost-cutting measures I think have been a little bit too extreme in my view. But at the same time, I was called out at one point, so it's not the easiest decision to make, and I understand that from that perspective. Maybe it's because I'm slightly older. I have no idea, but I'd like to think maybe a 3 out of 5. And I also like him. I also like a leader who stands by his decisions. If he feels like he needs all hands on deck with the same philosophy, and off the rip they identify that mistake and they want to make the change, then they'll bite the bullet, take the L, and go ahead. And Dan Ashworth, whether he was a great person for the job or not, if he's completely not on board with the same project as everybody else, and if they're not on the same philosophy, then it doesn't work. Everybody needs to be in the same. Everybody needs to be on that train going the same direction. If one person wants to go a different direction, which is obviously fine, nobody, not everybody's going to sit in the same plane. But if the philosophy doesn't align, then of course you have to make that change quickly. And I think that's what it was. That's just what I like to think.
It's good vibes. John has faith they're going to turn it around, and I like that. We need a little optimism here on the pod. I'm kind of the glass half full guy. We call John Bad Vibes John, bad vibes John, and we kind of counter each other out. So we're hopeful they can turn it around. They did inherit a mess. If you look what the Glazers did over the previous 10 years, that was not great. So switching topics once again, I know you're a huge Ji-Sung Park fan. Beyond Ji-Sung Park, who are some of your kind of all-time favorite Manchester United players? And then who's your favorite player from the current squad?
My favorite Manchester United player is actually not Park. Park is he's just in a different pedestal. Like he's in a different world. So I don't really use him in that conversation. My favorite player is actually Paul Scholes. He was always my favorite. Watching him was just like, I used to just like make faces that I would never make every time he made these ridiculous passes. It's like, there used to be these times where he'd like just spray as a joke from across the field to Nani, and he's just like waiting on the touchline, and it just like the ball gets like stuck to his feet, and it's just like perfect placement. I used to just sit there and go, there's no way this is real. Like this guy is just insane. So Paul Scholes was one of my favorites. More recently, maybe not recent, but Van Persie was another favorite of mine.
Feels recent.
Van Persie was another favorite of mine. I loved him so much. I hated the fact that he played for Arsenal. I used to buy him every year when I used to play FIFA. And in college, I was like, for some reason, I was like, this is the year we're gonna bring Van Persie. And out of nowhere, it happened. I was like shocked. And yeah, it was a short career at United, but I think it was one of the most important short careers we've had in quite some time for United. So Van Persie was another favorite. Of course, Wayne Rooney was another favorite. I mean, like I've had so many. But yeah, I think. Sorry, what was the second part to your question?
Who of the current squad do you rate?
Apologies.
Who has a place in your heart of the current group of bluffers? Some of them are not bluffers, but it's a mixed bag.
Well, Bruno Fernandes is up there for sure. He's world class, not just as a footballer, but a world class human being. I mean, I've had the pleasure of speaking to him very briefly, and every time I've seen him train, every time I've seen him, in person, whether it be some activation or some event, whatever, he always has so much time for everybody, and he's such a kind-hearted soul, and he's a great footballer. I love that about him so much. There's a lot of folks in there that it's tough because I know a lot of fans are very frustrated with the performance, but I personally would like to believe that there's still good footballers there. I truly believe that with deep in my heart. Mason Mount, perfect example, a footballer that I absolutely adored when he played. I loved his football. I just hated the fact that he played for Chelsea, and I was over the moon when he joined us. But unfortunately, the injuries have really, put a halt into his career at United so far, but there is a fantastic footballer there. And I also would like to think that that's the reason why Ruben Amarham rates him so much, because Ruben Amarham also has elite ball knowledge and he sees that there's a good footballer there, I also loved Casemiro. That's a player that I love so much. I just wish he could maybe joined a little bit earlier. But yeah, there's a lot. I mean, for me right now, I don't know if you guys can see that over there, but Cubby Mainu is a perfect example. Another player that I absolutely rate. Lenny Yoro. I mean, I can go on and on and on. Yeah, the football might not have been so great, but there's a lot of, fantastic lads there. I just personally think that Bruno Fernandes probably is just at the top of the top for me.
Yeah, hard to disagree. He's got a special place in my heart as well. I think there's a really good crop of youngsters coming through, given even some of the acquisitions that Ineos have made for, those breaking out 18-year-old stars like you mentioned, Lenny Euro. So wrapping up here, I know you're a big kit fan. I wore one of my favorite kits. I have skulls on the back of it. This is the 2008-2009 United kit that was very, very nice when Nike was really kind of hitting their zenith. So what do you think makes a great Manchester United kit? And I'd like to know, do you have a favorite from some of the most recent years that stands out?
I'd like to answer this in two ways. I think a kit is obviously looked at initially in terms of the design, right? From an aesthetic perspective, of course, that's what a shirt is, right? It's part of fashion and it's part of the aesthetics. But at the same time, I think kits are made to be favorites of people, or kits, increase in popularity based on the football that was played whilst wearing them. That's why the AIG kits are so, you're wearing the 08 or 09, so that's why the AIG kits are so absolutely insane. You know what I mean? There you go. There you go. You know, the Vodafone kits, so insane. The Sharp kits, so insane. And for me, like, as somebody that collects football kits from the perspective of fashion, I also, from Manchester United, from as a Man United fan's perspective, it transcends fashion. I need it to be more important, you know. And for me, um, I just want to see good football while they're wearing them, really, you know, and make history while wearing the kit. I mean, a perfect example is this one, the 1991 Cup Winners' Cup. I watched the documentary and did a full video, which I'm going to release very soon. I did a review, not so review of the documentary. Like I kind of like looked back into that era and like just thought about it. And I spoke to folks like Andy Mitten. I called on my good friend Stretford Paddock's Jay Motti. I called on people to see what the times were like. I wasn't born in 1991, so I kind of wanted to ask from their perspective what it was like, what the times were like, what the football was like. I got to see, you know, Mark Hughes with a double insane goals, you know, like making history while wearing kits like this is that's what's important for football kits, in my view. Purely excluding the fashion element as a Man United fan, of course.
No, of course. I think it's what the players do in that kit that really stands out. I remember Scholes obviously hitting that bangerang against Barcelona to get us in the final against Chelsea wearing this kit. And I think that's why I like it so much. Last question is just, is there a favorite from the most recent? I know you have a lot of fond memories in the last 5 years, but a recent kit that you like, John?
Ooh. Let's see if I have it on here. I don't know. Can I just step over there and bring it real quick, if that's okay?
Of course.
All right, hold on 1 second.
It's an active interview today, you know, bringing props.
So this is the kit from 2 seasons ago. Me personally, as a fan, as a content creator, this kit is important for me because this was the first kit that Manchester United gave to me to basically make content with, really. And as a content creator, it meant the world to me that I got to connect with my club to do something as special as showcase the football kit, you know. And of course, I wish they won the Champions League and the Premier League and everything with this kit. You know, of course, that's my ambitions and wishes and my selfishness as a fan. But as a content creator, you know, stepping aside from the fan element and just looking at it from a content creator perspective, just the fact that I get to spend time with my club and, you know, talk about how beautiful the design is and do all these things. For me, this was a very special and important one for me.
That's a great one. I almost wore that as well. I took it off right before I changed on this one. So you are the legendary United fan at Good Vibes, John. John, can you just let folks know where they can find more of your content and how they can connect with you moving forward?
Yeah, sure. You guys can find me. I spend most of my time now on Instagram at Good Vibes, John. I'm usually just, I'm literally on there just telling fans it's going to be okay, really. So if you need a little bit of that, John, come comfort me, you know, I'll give you a little pat in the back. I'm going to be like, yo, it's all right. It's going to be all right. Don't worry.
We call that pod therapy. So John, we really appreciate it. Pleasure to have you on the pod. We've always been big fans. And we appreciate it. We'll get this up shortly. And thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.